Hello and welcome back to The Deep Dive. It is, as always, wonderful to have you with us.
It is indeed.
Today we're doing something a little bit different. Usually we'll take a stack of books, maybe some academic papers, and we synthesize them for you.
Right, we pull out the central themes.
Exactly. But today we're turning our focus to just one source. A conversation, actually. Though, to be honest, calling it a mere conversation feels like a massive understatement.
It really does.
We are opening up what I would genuinely describe as a manual for life. We're looking at a modern classic of the podcasting world, The Joe Rogan Experience, episode number 1309, featuring the one and only Naval Ravikant.
It is, without a doubt, a classic. I mean, for the audience at the Wise Cut, for anyone who tunes in for that deep, actionable wisdom, this recording is, well, it's treated a bit like a sacred text in places like Silicon Valley and increasingly far beyond.
And you can absolutely see why, can't you?
Oh, there's a very good reason for that reference. Naval isn't just a tech investor, although his CV is, the stuff of legend. Uber, Twitter, the list goes on. But he occupies this very different space. He's often called a philosopher king.
I love that title, a philosopher king. And honestly, when you really listen to this source, you completely understand why it sticks. This isn't a chat about the latest iPhone.
No, not at all.
Or what the stock market is doing this week. It is a comprehensive, almost systematic breakdown of the trifecta that every single person is chasing, whether they admit it or not: wealth, health, and happiness.
Precisely. And what I think makes Naval so incredibly compelling is that he approaches these soft topics, happiness, inner peace, fulfillment. He approaches them with the rigor of a hard scientist.
Yes, there are no platitudes.
None. You won't find him selling live, laugh, love stickers. He offers algorithms, he gives you formulas, he breaks life down into first principles.
It's intense, but in the best possible way. My favorite analogy he used right at the start to explain why people are so drawn to him, he called himself a bear on a unicycle.
Such a vivid image, isn't it?
It really is. He said, look, if you see a bear in the wild, that's interesting. If you see a unicycle leaning against a wall, it's, mildly interesting.
Right.
But you see bear on a unicycle, you cannot look away. And he's saying that he combines things you aren't supposed to combine. He takes the cutthroat material world of investing, and then he fuses it with deep, almost ascetic philosophy and spirituality.
And that combination is really the key to his whole mission, if we can call it that. The perspective Naval brings is so powerful because of his story. He was born poor, and then he made himself wealthy. He was, by his own admission, born a miserable, depressive pessimist. And then he made himself happy.
Which is the core idea.
It's everything. He treats both wealth and happiness not as genetic traits and not as lucky accidents, but as skills.
And that is the hook for me. That is the aha moment right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because if it's a skill,
it can be learned.
It can be learned. And if it can be learned, we can decode it. So that's what we're going to do. Let's unpack this properly. We have a lot of ground to cover. Starting with, the heavy hitter. The principles of wealth creation.
And to do that, we have to start with definitions. Naval is, as you said earlier, incredibly precise with his language. In this conversation, he's so careful to distinguish between three things that people constantly mix up: wealth, money, and status.
Right. They are not the same thing. And he argues that most people are out there chasing status, but what they actually want is wealth.
Correct. Let's bring that down because it's a crucial first step. Wealth, in his definition, is about owning assets that earn while you sleep.
The machine that works for you.
Exactly. It's the factory, the computer code, the equity in a business, or the investments that are compounding. Money, on the other hand, is just how we transfer wealth and time. It's the social credit, the unit of account.
Yeah.
But status is the trap.
He calls it a zero-sum game. Can we maybe define that for the listener?
A zero-sum game means that there's a fixed pie. For me to win, you have to lose. It's a ranking system. For me to be number one, someone else has to be number two.
Like politics.
Politics is a classic zero-sum status game. Sports, too. There's only one gold medal. If I take it, you can't have it. But wealth creation, and this is true capitalism in its ethical form, that's a positive sum game.
We can both win.
We can both be better off. If I build a wonderful piece of software and you buy it, I get your money, and you get a tool that saves you time, we both walk away richer. So Naval's advice is really stark here. Ignore the status games. They make you angry, combative, and ultimately miserable. Focus entirely on creating wealth.
Okay, so if we're ignoring that status ladder and we're focusing on wealth, the immediate question is how? I mean, most people think the answer is work harder. grind more hours.
Put in more time.
Right. But Naval pivots away from that. He goes to this concept he calls specific knowledge. This really stuck with me. He says you cannot be trained for your specific knowledge.
Which is a slightly terrifying thought at first. Because if you can be trained for it, so can someone else. And if someone else can be trained to do exactly what you do,
then eventually you can be replaced by someone cheaper or by a robot.
Exactly. So your specific knowledge is the thing that can't be taught in a classroom, but it can be learned. It's unique to you.
So it's the stuff that makes you.
Yeah.
You. How do you even find that?
Well, he says it's the intersection of your unique genetic traits, your upbringing, and your response to it. But more practically, he says to find it, you should look back at your childhood. What were you doing effortlessly? What felt like play to you, but looked like work to everyone else?
It's usually a combination of things, isn't it?
Almost always. He used Joe Rogan himself as the perfect example of this in action.
He did, and it's a brilliant example.
It fits perfectly. Think about Rogan's career. He's a UFC commentator, a stand-up comedian, a very successful podcaster, a martial artist. There's no university degree for that specific combination.
You can't go to Cambridge and major in being Joe Rogan.
Exactly. You can't become the next Joe Rogan by following a curriculum. His entire career is a reflection of his genuine eclectic interests. And because of that, he essentially has no competition. No one else is playing that exact game.
Which leads to that wonderful line he has, escape competition through authenticity.
That's the core insight, isn't it? If you are building something based on who you genuinely are, on your unique obsessions, you have no competition. Competition is for imitators. Competition is what happens when you look at someone else and say, I want to do what they're doing. But if you are just obsessively following your own intellectual curiosity, you're in a league of one.
Right. No one can compete with you at being you.
It's the one game you're guaranteed to win.
Okay, so you find this specific knowledge, this thing that feels like play. But, well, just playing doesn't automatically make you rich. You need to amplify it. And this brings us to leverage. This felt like the real engine of his whole wealth theory.
Leverage is how you magnify the output of your judgment and your specific knowledge. Without leverage, your output is directly tied to your input. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. Leverage is what breaks that link.
And he outlines 3 very distinct forms of it.
Yes, and understanding the evolution of these is, I think, critical for anyone listening today. The first one is the oldest. It's labor.
People working for you, the old school way.
The factory owner model. I have 10 people working for me. It confers high status people love to say, I manage a team of 50 because it signals power. But Naval warns it's actually the worst form of leverage.
Why is that?
Because it's messy. It requires management. Humans have egos, they have families, they have complex lives. It's incredibly difficult to coordinate and manage well. It's fraught with, human drama.
Okay, so that's labor. Then there's capital.
Money. This was the dominant form of leverage in the 20th century. If you have capital, you can invest in the stock market or build a factory. Your money is working for you. But the problem with both labor and capital, and this is a key point, is that they are permissioned.
Permissioned? What do you mean?
You need someone else's permission to use them. You need someone to agree to work for you. You need a bank or an investor to give you money. You can't just wake up and decide, I'm going to use capital leverage today if you don't already have it. There are gatekeepers.
And that brings us to the third one, the one he calls the leverage of the new rich, code and media.
This is the game changer. This is the great equalizer. Code and media are permissionless.
You don't need anyone's permission.
No one's. You don't need a permit to record a deep dive like this. You don't need anyone's approval to write a piece of software or upload a YouTube video. You can just do it. And the magic here, as Naval points out, is that the marginal cost of replication is 0.
Okay, that sounds like a bit of an economics term. Let's break that down for everyone.
It just means that once you've created the thing, the piece of code, this audio recording, it costs you almost nothing to make another copy of it, to let 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 10 million people use it or listen to it.
So it's an army of robots.
It's an army of robots working for you while you sleep. They broadcast for you, they sell for you 24/7, 365 days a year, and you don't have to manage their egos, pay them a salary, or worry about them unionizing.
That is the ultimate goal, isn't it? You build it once and it serves you forever. Now, there's a really practical exercise he gave for people to start valuing their time properly to get to this point, the hourly rate exercise.
I love this because it's so immediately actionable. Naval suggests setting an aspirational hourly rate for yourself, and he means truly aspirational. Even if you're broke, set it at something high, like, say, $5,000 an hour.
$5,000 an hour. That seems, well, ludicrous for most people. I can hear listeners right now saying, I don't make that in a month.
And that's the point. It's meant to be shocking. It's about creating a heuristic, a mental shortcut for making decisions. And the rule is very simple. If a task like cooking dinner, mowing the lawn, returning a shirt to the shop to save 20 quid, if it saves you less than your hourly rate, you should not be doing it.
So if returning that shirt takes an hour and saves me 40 pounds, but my rate is $5,000, I should just throw the shirt away.
Or give it to charity.
Precisely. It sounds incredibly arrogant on the surface, but it trains your brain. It forces you to stop squandering your life on low-leverage activities. If you are constantly doing $20 an hour work, you will never have the mental space to figure out how to earn $5,000 an hour.
You have to outsource the small stuff.
You have to. You are signaling to yourself over and over that your time is your most scarce and valuable resource. It's about changing your identity. You have to believe your time is that valuable before the market does.
That's powerful. Now, shifting gears a bit, Naval talks about where this is all heading, the future of work. He has this fascinating theory that we are, in a sense, reversing the Industrial Revolution. Yes, the atomization of the firm. It's a brilliant concept. If you look back at history, the Industrial Revolution aggregated us. It took individuals from farms and cottages and put them into factories, and then later into giant office buildings.
Because it was efficient to have everyone in one place.
Exactly. Transaction costs were high. It was just easier to coordinate production if everyone was under one roof. But now, with the internet, with Slack, with Zoom, those transaction costs are basically zero.
You can coordinate with anyone, anywhere, instantly.
Right. So Naval predicts we are returning to a sort of hunter-gatherer style of work, but a digital version. We won't have jobs in the traditional sense where you show up at 9 a.m. for 40 years. We will have gigs or missions.
He painted this picture of a future where you wake up, your phone buzzes with 3 different offers for high-skill work. You pick one, you assemble a team for a week, you execute, you get paid, and then you disband.
A society of free agents, Ronins, as he puts it. And this connects directly to his view on automation. There's a lot of fear out there that AI and robots will take all the jobs.
The end of work.
Right. But Naval is a real optimist here. He believes the end of work is a complete fallacy. As long as humans have unmet desires, there will be work. But the nature of that work will change.
He said automation frees us for creative work.
Yes, the heavy lifting, the repetitive calculation, the rote memorization machines should do all of that. So what's left for us? Creativity and high-level judgment. The only things left will be the things that feel like play to us, but look like work to the machines.
This has huge implications for education, too. I loved his take on how we learn. He said most of us are just memorizing scaffolding that falls apart within months.
He advocates for what he calls the steel frame approach. Think about how we learn something like calculus or advanced history in school. We memorize names, dates, formulas, jargon. We cram for the exam.
And then you forget it 6 months later.
Because it was just scaffolding. It wasn't built on a solid foundation. Naval argues we should spend our time mastering the absolute basics. Arithmetic, not calculus. Logic, clear writing, persuasion, maybe some computer programming. If you understand these foundations deeply, like a steel frame, you can hang any new information on top of it and it will actually stick.
And his own reading habits reflect this, don't they? He admitted he rarely even finishes books.
Which is such a relief to hear from someone so intelligent. He treats books like blogs or a collection of articles. He reads for the core idea. Once he gets the concept, he feels free to move on.
He said he'd rather read the best one-title books over and over again.
Yes, and absorb them into his bones. Rather than brag about reading 500 new books a year, it's about deep understanding, not vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics. That's a good transition to the next major pillar of this whole conversation. We've covered wealth, which is the external gain. Now let's talk about the skill that money supposedly can't buy, but Naval insists you can build. Happiness, the internal gain.
And this is where the conversation becomes truly profound and, to be honest, quite challenging for the listener. Naval asks this incredibly pointed question: if you are so smart, why aren't you happy?
Oof, that hits hard, doesn't it? It sort of implies that unhappiness is a form of incompetence, a failure of intelligence.
It completely exposes what he calls the smart but miserable trap. Many intelligent people, they almost fetishize their own unhappiness. They rationalize it. They think happiness is for dumb people who don't understand how tragic and complex the world is.
They wear their cynicism like a badge of intellectual honor.
Precisely. And Naval just rejects that out of hand. He says, look, I was miserable and I fixed it. And his definition of happiness is key here. It is not joy or elation or excitement. He defines happiness as the absence of desire.
This brings us to the quote that, for me, just defines the entire episode. He said, "Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want."
It's just a stunningly powerful definition. And think about it biologically. We are evolved to want things, to desire food, shelter, a mate. That's what kept us alive. But in the modern world, our desires have run rampant.
It's not just food and shelter anymore.
No, it's my coffee is too cold, the traffic is too slow, I want that new car, I need more likes on Instagram. Every single one of those is a tiny contract for unhappiness. You are essentially telling yourself, I will not be okay until this external condition is met.
So is he saying we shouldn't want anything?
Right.
That we should just, sit on a rock and fade away into nothing?
No, he's a realist. He's not an absolutist. He says you should pick one big desire. Pick one singular mission in your life to suffer for. Maybe it's building your business, maybe it's raising a family, maybe it's running a marathon. But let go of the thousands of small, petty desires that clutter your mind in your day.
Pick your battles.
Pick your one battle. You can't be unhappy about the traffic and your coffee and your job and politics all at the same time. It's exhausting.
Niels made a really interesting distinction between peace and joy. I think most of us confuse them. We think what we want is constant joy.
We do. We chase the highs, the excitement, the euphoria, but joy is just the flip side of misery. It's a pendulum. If you swing high up to the right with intense joy, you're inevitably going to swing just as far to the left into sorrow.
What we really want is the center point.
The still point. What we really want, according to Naval, is peace. He has this beautiful line. Peace is happiness at rest. Happiness is peace in motion.
And he had a very clever hack for this. A social hack, actually. He just started telling his friends that he was a happy person.
The power of social consistency. It's a well-known psychological principle. We have a deep need to be consistent with how we present ourselves to the world. So if you announce to everyone, I am a happy person, you force yourself to live up to that.
You don't want to be a liar.
Exactly. So when something bad happens, your brain has to catch itself and say, wait a minute, I'm a happy person. Happy people don't let small things like this bother them. It's a kind of fake it till you make it, but for your internal state.
But to actually get to that state of peace, you have to deal with the noise in your head, the monkey mind, as it's often called. And this leads us to his very specific technique for meditation.
And it's so important to notice his approach here. It is not about apps. It is not about guided voices or soothing music. He's actually quite critical of what you might call McMindfulness.
He was very, very specific. Sit alone in a room, eyes closed, for 1 hour.
And just sit. Do nothing.
Yeah.
If you think, you think. If you don't, you don't. He says it's not meant to be peaceful at first. In fact, it's meant to be the opposite. He calls it reaching mental inbox zero.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It perfectly explains why meditation is so difficult for beginners.
It does, doesn't it? Because when you finally sit down to do nothing, your brain starts throwing all its unread emails at you. You shouldn't have said that to your boss 5 years ago. You need to plan for your presentation next week. You regret how that relationship ended.
It's just a torrent of noise.
A torrent.
Yeah.
And most people run from this silence because it's painful. They check their phone, they turn on the TV, they do anything to avoid being alone with that inbox.
But Naval's whole point is that you have to sit through it.
You have to. You have to just sit there until you have processed every single one of those emails. And it might take 60 days of doing this for an hour a day, but eventually you resolve the issues, you process the regrets, and the mind goes quiet. Not because you force it to be quiet, but because it simply has nothing left to say.
It's a form of self-therapy, really. Instead of paying someone to listen to your problems, you just listen to yourself until you're bored of your own drama.
And that is where true rest happens. He connects this to the broader struggle of modern life. He called our main problems diseases of abundance.
We used to die from scarcity, starvation, exposure.
Yeah.
Now we die from too much of everything.
Exactly. Too much sugar leads to diabetes. Too much information leads to anxiety. Too much social media leads to envy and depression. In the past, society had structures that protected us. We had tribes, strict religions, simple scarcity. Now you are alone.
He said you are alone against an army of data scientists.
It is a solitary war. There are literally thousands of the world's brightest engineers at Google and Facebook and TikTok whose only job is to hack your dopamine receptors and keep you scrolling. You cannot win that fight with willpower alone while you're still engaging with it.
You have to disconnect.
You have to learn to be an ascetic in a world of overwhelming abundance, he quotes Pascal. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
Which brings us, I think, to the philosophical core of this entire conversation. If we strip away the apps, the job, the status games, what is actually left? Naval talked about life as a single-player game.
This is a perspective shift that changes everything, I think. Socially, yes, we play multiplayer games. We compete for status. We talk to others. We seek validation. But biologically, experientially, we are utterly alone.
You're born alone, you die alone.
And your entire interpretation of the world happens inside your own skull. No one else has access to it. And this is why he says that judging others is what creates separation and suffering.
Can you expand on that?
Well, when you walk down the street and your mind starts judging people, he's ugly, she's slow, their political opinion is wrong, you are creating separation. You are reinforcing the idea that you are this isolated ego separate from the world. Acceptance, on the other hand, brings peace. Reality is neutral. The tree isn't right or wrong, it's just a tree. Your judgment is what causes your suffering.
But if we're just accepting everything, then what's the point? What's the meaning of life? He went pretty deep here with something called Agrippa's trilemma.
He did, and it sounds very complex, but it's actually the game every toddler plays when they just ask why, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
If you ask what is the meaning of life, and I give you an answer, you can always ask, well, why is that the meaning? And eventually, you hit one of three dead ends.
You either go in a circle, you go on forever in an infinite regress, or you just have to state an axiom A just because. Like because God said so, or because of the Big Bang.
Exactly. And Naval's conclusion from this is liberating, because there is no single, objective, provable answer that you are free. If there was one specific meaning of life, we'd all be slaves to it. We'd be robots fulfilling a pre-written script. The lack of objective meaning is your freedom to create your own meaning.
That's the paradox he mentions. You are nothing and you are everything.
It is. In the grand cosmic scheme, you are an insignificant speck of dust. But you are also everything, because your consciousness is the creator of your entire reality. Without you, for you, nothing exists.
I have to mention one moment of real vulnerability Naval showed in this conversation. He admitted he has what he calls a sounding smart disease.
I found that so relatable. He catches himself rehearsing conversations in his head even before this podcast with Joe. He's planning his smart answers.
And he realized it was a defense mechanism from his childhood poverty. He used his intellect as a weapon to survive, so he's constantly trying to prove he's smart.
But the awareness is the key. Recognizing it allows him to start letting go of it. It's that practice again, watching the mind instead of being helplessly controlled by it.
And that leads to his ultimate definition of freedom, which he calls retirement. And this is not the state pension, AARP version of retirement, is it?
Not at all. For Naval, retirement is the moment you stop sacrificing today for an imaginary tomorrow. It's when today is complete in and of itself.
I love that. So you aren't working so that you can relax later. You are living fully right now.
And he gives 3 ways to get there. 1, you save enough money so that your passive income covers your expenses. 2, you lower your expenses to 0, you become a monk. Or 3, the most elegant solution.
You do something you love so much that it feels like play.
If you love what you do, you aren't sacrificing today for tomorrow. You are just playing. And you can do it forever.
Which brings us right back full circle to specific knowledge.
Yeah.
If you find the work that feels like play to you, you are effectively retired, even if you're working 16 hours a day.
Exactly. You've escaped the trap.
So let's try to wrap this up. We've covered a massive amount of ground, from permissionless leverage to mental inbox zero. What is the overarching ethos here? What's the wise cut takeaway from this masterclass?
The takeaway for me is that life is not a lottery. It is a game of skill. Wealth is not primarily about luck. It is the skill of applying leverage to your specific knowledge. And happiness is not a mood that comes and goes. It is the skill of managing your desires and seeing reality clearly.
And the goal isn't to be famous. Naval actually says you want to be rich and anonymous.
Because poor and famous is the worst fate imaginable. You have no privacy and no freedom. Rich and anonymous gives you the freedom to be creative and, crucially, the peace to actually enjoy it.
I want to leave our listener with a thought that Naval hinted at, which I found really provocative. He suggested that if you are truly effective, you don't need meetings. hours. You don't need to travel for business. You don't need to apologize for fiercely protecting your time.
It really holds up a mirror to our modern busy lives, doesn't it? It forces you to ask yourself, which parts of my packed schedule are actually just inefficiency disguised as work? Are we having all these meetings to avoid the genuinely hard work of sitting alone and thinking? Are we flying across the country to feel important rather than to actually be effective?
A brutal set of questions to end on, but very necessary ones.
Indeed.
So, here is your call to action from this deep dive. Try the challenge. 60 minutes, alone. No phone, no books, no music, just you and your thoughts. See what's in that mental inbox. Or take a hard, honest look at your career. Are you building specific knowledge and leverage, or are you just renting out your time?
The answers to those questions might just change your life.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll see you on the next one.